Hey guys, it is Friday, April 24th. It was so great seeing so many of you yesterday for our Google Hangout. Thanks so much for those of you that tuned in. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope you're looking forward to a great weekend. Weather's turning up, it's going to start getting nice. Hope you guys are staying active, being outside. Let's take a look at our stuff for today. These things look familiar to you. Take a look at those changes in the IXL learning opportunities. We're going to change those next Monday. So finish up the things that we put out there for you if you can, and then next week we'll change them. So take a look at those. Keep hitting all those free lunch and breakfast opportunities too up at the high school. Great stuff. Friday's a hot lunch day. So head on up there. I'm sure it's going to be something good. Please keep me posted if there's anything, if you have any questions or you just want to let me know. I saw Caden's cool video of his bike jump. I like just seeing what you guys are doing. So keep sending me pictures and just stuff what you're up to. I like seeing it. Make sure you're staying home and staying safe. Taking a look at the academic side of things. Math, make sure you're doing that Prodigy. Keep it up. You guys, some of you are doing a great job. IXL, those things, those 5 things I posted on Monday, keep doing those. If you've already cranked those out, awesome, move on, or you can take a little breather and just do Prodigy. Make sure you do that Kahoot that I posted. Some of you guys did awesome. I'll post the top 5 scores there so you can take it again, but I'll post top 5 scores. Reading, keep up the good reading. Epic, or read some more books. Keep doing that. IXL, take a look at that. Social studies, that soccer question, I'm going to pull it down very shortly here. So hopefully you guys have already answered or asked your question to Miss Senator Bewley. I'm going to send that to her, and we can look forward to hearing from her in the future. And then check out those links from all our specialists, whether that's Mr. Buckley, Mr. Warner, Mr. Newkirchen, or Ms. Lesner. We'll have some new stuff up there on Monday, but finish off this week and keep going strong, right? Finish up the stuff you guys had earlier. I know it's tough, but keep doing it, right? Just make a habit out of getting through the tough situations. You guys are doing, a lot of you are doing a really good job with that, so keep doing it. And then we're on to the City of Ember. Great story. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying it with me. We got Lena, we got Dune, we got a pipe wrench, we got a list of weird instructions there all torn up. And that's what we're going to continue with today. Today they're going to really work on figuring out this message. Again, the City of Ember. I outlined a few things. Pipeworks is up here. I thought that was important. The supply depot, that is where Lena's friend was working, where she is coming up with all these weird cans. And Looper's shop, right? Looper is down here. He's the one that's a few years older than Lena and Dune, and mysteriously coming up with all these great things. So coming up with these, so I thought those 3 points were important. We'll keep coming back to this map as well. Here's this mysterious letter with all the points in it that are gone. It's going to break it down in this chapter of point by point, but they're going to try to decipher it. So we're going to try to figure out what all of these things mean. And that's why chapter 13 is called Deciphering the Message, right? Deciphering means to, like, breaking a code kind of thing, and that's what they're doing in this chapter. So chapter 13 is Deciphering the Message. They're referring to that message I just talked about. So here we go. Dune headed for home, and Lena went in the opposite direction across Harkham Square. The little group of believers had gone, but the protesters with their signs continued to pace back and forth. A few of them were still shaking their fists in the air and yelling, but most of them tramped silently, looking tired and discouraged. Remember, this is right after they told the guards about what was going on with the mayor and Mr. Looper. Lena felt a bit that way too. Once Dune said he'd seen a door, she was sure that the door he'd found was the door in the instructions were the same. She had had such hopes for the door in the pipeworks, but hoping so hard had made her jump to conclusions. She'd gone a little too fast. She always went fast. Sometimes it was a good thing, and sometimes not. Now, Doon thought the instructions were nothing important at all. She didn't want him to be right. She didn't want to believe he was, even now, but her thoughts felt like a mess of tangled yarn. She needed someone wise and sensible to help her sort things out. She headed for Gloom Street. Passage of time. Though it was nearly 6 o'clock, she found Clary still in her workroom at the far end of Greenhouse 1. It was a small, crowded room. Pots and trowels cluttered the high table at one end. Above the table were shelves full of bottles of seeds and boxes of string, wire, and various kinds of powders. Clary's desk was a rickety table littered with some scraps of paper, all of them covered with notes in her neat, round handwriting. 2 rickety chairs went to the rickety table, one on each side. Lena sat down facing Clary. "I have to tell you some important things," she said, "and they're all secret." "All right," said Clary. "I can keep secrets." She was wearing a patched shirt that had faded from blue to gray. Her short brown hair was tucked behind her ears, and a bit of leaf clung to the right-hand side. She folded her arms in front of her on the desk and looked solid and square. "The first thing is," Lena began, "that I found the instructions, but Poppy had chewed them up." "The instructions?" said Clary. "I'm not familiar with them." Lena explained. She went on to explain everything, how she'd shown the instructions to Doon, what they had figured out, how she'd searched the pipeworks and found the door, and what she'd seen when he opened the door. Clary made an unhappy sound and shook her head. "That is very bad," she said, "and sad, too. I remember when the mayor was first starting out. He had always been foolish, but not always wicked. I'm sorry to know that the worst side of him has won out." Clary's dark brown eyes seemed to grow deeper and sadder. "There is so much darkness in Ember, Lena. It's not just outside, it's inside us, too. Everyone has some darkness inside. It's like a hungry creature. It wants and wants and wants with terrible power. And the more you give it, the bigger and hungrier it gets." Lena knew. She had felt it in Looper's shop as she hovered over the colored pencils. For a moment she felt sorry for the mayor. His hunger had grown too big, and it had never been satisfied. His huge body couldn't contain it. It never made him forget everything else. It had made him forget everything else. Clary let out a long breath, and a few of the scraps of paper on her desk fluttered. She ran her fingers through her hair, felt a bit of leaf, and plucked it out. Then she said, "About these instructions." "Oh, yes," said Lena. "They might be important, or they might not be. I don't know any more. I'd like to see them if you'd let me." "Of course you can see them, but you'll have to come with me, or come home with me." "I'll come now, if that's all right," said Clary. "There's plenty of time before the light's out." Passage of time. Lena led Clary up the stairs into her new bedroom at Miss Murdo's. "Nice room," Clary said, looking around with interest. "And I see you have a sprout." "A what?" said Lena. "Your bean," said Clary, pointing to the little dirt pot on the windowsill. Lena bent to see what Clary was talking about. Sure enough, the dirt was heaving up a bit. She touched the pushed up part, brushed away the dirt, and discovered a pale green loop. It looked like a neck, as if a creature in the bean were trying to escape but hadn't managed to pull its head out yet. Of course, she had already knew the plant grew from the seeds, but to have a flat white bean in the dirt, to have almost forgotten about it, and now to see it forcing its way into the air. "It's doing it," she said. It's coming to life. Clary nodded, smiled. Still amazes me every time I see it, she said. Lena brought out the instructions, and Clary sat down at the table to study them. She puzzled over the patchwork scraps for a long time, tracing the lines in her finger and murmuring the parts of the words. What you figured out so far seems to be right to me, she said. I think the ip-erk must be pipeworks, and the iv-nk must be riverbank. So this bit must be down riverbank. Then there's a big space here. To edge. Edge of what, I wonder? And does it mean down riverbank, as in walk along the river? Yes, I think so, Lena said. Or does it mean the riverbank itself, down the bank toward the river? Maybe the edge means the edge of the water. It couldn't mean that. The bank goes straight down like a wall. You couldn't go down to the edge of the water. You'd fall in. Lena pictured the dark, swift water and shivered. This word, said Clary, putting the finger on the paper. Maybe it isn't edge. Maybe it's something else. It could be hedge or pledge. Those don't make much sense. But it could be ledge or wedge. Lena saw Clary was no better at deciphering the puzzle than she was. She sighed and sat down at the edge of her bed. It's hopeless, she said. Clary straightened up quickly. Don't say that. This torn up piece of paper is the most hopeful thing I've ever seen. Do you know what this word is? She pointed her eyes to the top of the paper. Irgs. Someone's name, isn't it? The title would be for instructions for Egerston or for Egressman or something like that. The person the instructions were for. I don't think so, said Clary. If you add an S to the word right here, this tear in the paper would say you would get egress. Do you know what that means? No, said Lena. It means the way out. It means the exit. The title of this document is Instructions for Egress. Passage of time. When Clary left, there was still over an hour before lights out. Lena raced across the city to Greengate Square. She glanced at the window of the small item shop where Doohan's father was reaching for something on a shelf, and then she dashed up the stairs and knocked on his door to Doohan's apartment. Right away, she heard quick steps, and Doohan opened the door. I have something exciting to tell you, Lena said breathlessly. Come in, then. Lena went across the cluttered room to stand by a lamp. She pulled from her pocket a tiny piece of paper in which she had written egress on a word. Look at this word, she said. It's from the title of the instructions. Someone's name, said Doohan. No, said Lena. It's meant to be egress with 2 S's. I showed the instructions to Clary and she told me. It means the way out. The way out? Cried Doohan. Yes, the way out. The exit. It's the instructions for the way out of Ember. So it is real, said Doohan. It is. We have to figure out the rest, or as much as the rest as possible. Can you come now? He darted into his room, emerged with his jacket, and they ran. All right, said Lena. They were on the floor of the blue-green room in Miss Murdo's. Let's take a look at the first line. She moved her finger along slowly. Exp, riv, ip, orc. We know that ip, orc is pipeworks, she said. Exp could be expand, or explore, or expose. There's a big difference between exp and the rest, said Doohan. There must be more words in there. But who knows what they are? Let's move on. Lena swept her straggly hair impatiently back from her face. Look at number 2. Stun, marked with an E by j. Lena put her finger on st. What could that be? Maybe piston, said Doohan. That's part of a machine, like a generator. Or maybe it's astonish. Or it could be, I bet it's a plain stone, said Lena. There's a lot of stone in the pipeworks. Dune had to admit this is probably right. So then, he said, it would be marked with a stone with an E. He frowned at the next bit. This must be river's edge, marked with a stone marked with an E by the river's edge. They looked at each other with delight. E for egress, cried Lena. E for exit. They bent over the document again. There's not much left of the next line, said Dune. Addle down Iver bank to edge 8 low. Just this part, which it says down riverbank to edge, something. Edge of water would make sense, but right after edge there's an app. What would that be? Dune sat back on his heels and gazed at the ceiling as if the answer might be there. Lena muttered, down riverbank to edge. Edge, she thought of Clary's guesses about that line. Maybe it's ledge, she said, down riverbank to ledge, or it could be ledge near the water. Yes, that must be right. There's a stone marked with an E, and down the riverbank at that point there's a ledge. I think we're getting it. Once again they crouched at the page, their heads close together. Okay, Dune said. Line 4. 4. Axe to the wat, R, fine door of bow, cur, key, hind, small steel, pan, keep right, rem, e, open, do. This is where it says door, Lena said. Somehow the door is by the ledge. Does that make sense? And that there's a small steel pan. What can that mean? What could be a pan have to do with anything? But look. Lena tapped the paper urgently. Here it says key, as here it is the key. It's talking about the key. But what is it a door to? Said Dune, sitting back. Remember? We thought about it before. A door to the river a door in the bank of a river would lead to under the pipeworks. Lena pondered this. Maybe it leads to a long tunnel that goes way out beyond Ember, and then gradually up and up until it comes out to another city. What other city? Dune glanced up at the drawings tacked to the walls of Lena's room. Oh, he said. You mean that city? Well, it could be. Dune shrugged. I suppose so. Or it could be another city exactly like this one. That was a gloomy thought. Both of them felt their spirits sink a little at the idea. So they turned back to the task of deciphering. Next line, said Lena. But Dune sat back on his heels again. He stared into the air, half smiling. I have an idea, he said. If we do find the way out, we'll need to announce it to everyone. Wouldn't it be splendid to do it during the singing? Stand up there in front of the whole city and say we found it? It would be, Lena said, but that's only 2 days away. Yes, we have to hurry. They were bending again over the glued down fragments when Dune remembered that he should check on time. It was 9:15. He barely had time to get home. Come again tomorrow, said Lena, and while you're at work, look for the rock marked with an E. That night, Dune had trouble sleeping. He couldn't find a comfortable position on his bed. He seemed to be made up of nothing but lumps and wrinkles. It had squeaked and groaned every time he moved. He flailed around so much that the noise woke his father, who would come into his room and ask, What is it, son? Nightmares? No, said Dune, just can't sleep. Are you worrying? Frightened of anything? Dune wanted to say, Yes, father, I'm worried because the mayor of our city is taking for himself and the things that people need. And I'm afraid because the day our lights could go out forever. I'm worried and afraid that a lot of the time But I'm also excited because I think there is a way out, and we might find it. And all of these feelings are whirled around in my head, which makes it hard to sleep. He could have told his father everything. His father would have plunged into it with great enthusiasm. He also would have helped them decipher the instructions and expose the mayor's thievery. He would have even come down to the pipeworks and helped them search the rock marked with an E. But Dune wanted to keep these things to himself for now. Tomorrow the guards would announce that there's an alert for a young boy had uncovered the mayor's crime, and the father, hearing the announcements along with the rest of the Ember, would turn to the person next to him and say, "That's my son they're talking about. My son." So in the answer to his father's question, he simply said, "No, father, I'm all right." "Well then, I see that you can't lie still," said his father. "Good night, son," he added, and closed the door. Dune smoothed out his covers and pulled them up to his chin. He closed his eyes, but still he couldn't sleep. So he tried a method that often worked for him before. He would choose a place he knew well, the school, for instance, and imagine himself walking through it, picturing it as he went minute detail. Often his thoughts would wander, but he would always bring them back to the imaginary journey. And something about doing this would often make him sleepy. That night, he decided to retrace his explorations of the pipeworks. He held in his mind the task for a long time, picturing with all the clarity he could muster everything he had been in the underground realm: the long stairway, the tunnels, the door, the path along the rivers, the rocks along the path. He felt sleep drawing closer, a heaviness in his limbs. But just as he was about to give in to it, he saw in his mind's eye a wrinkled rocks that bordered the river to the west end of the pipeworks. The rocks whose strange ridges had creased and reminded him of writing. His eyes flew open in the dark. His heart began to hammer, and he gave up on sleeping and lay in a state of terrible impatience for the rest of the night. Hey, that's the end of the chapter. The next chapter is The Way Out, chapter 14. I threw up some pictures, as I do on Fridays, of some things that we've done. Here's our Christmas concert pictures. There's Tucker and some sweet wigs here going on, some pictures of us singing. Here's even a video. There's Mr. Warner up here. You guys did a great job this Christmas, so I thought you might want to see that. You guys are singing up here. Everybody's watching here, and you saw the big crowds, so I thought you might enjoy that. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's read aloud, twists and turns, what's going to happen. And I hope you guys are having a great time. The weather is supposed to be great this weekend, so I hope you guys get out and play, do something fun, enjoy the great weather, get out there and do something fun. So look forward to hearing from you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys are enjoying the story and keeping up with all of your work. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you later. Bye.